What is up, everyone? What is up? How is it going? Happy Monday, hump day. 2 weeks until Hacker Summer Camp starts. I think, what is it, closer to like 18 days, though, if you're doing just DEF CON. But what's everyone up to? Pardon me with the yogurt, given the shake weight action over here. Didn't really eat much of dinner, so finished up some cantaloupe, and now I got some mango. But, yeah. And then, I got new tools for my everyday carry. Well, technically not new tools, they're old tools that I just couldn't find. Because I was doing a, check of all of my tools for DEF CON, and every year I try to pack lighter and lighter. Because the first year I, way overdid it. This year I'm going to try to maybe reduce it to 3 laptops. One of those being a work laptop that I have to bring because it's work. No getting around that. One of the ones being my Parrot, one of the other ones being my Cubes laptop, but I'm going to try to consolidate that. Although, I guess if we count the Cyber Deck over here, the U console, that would be another computer. So, yeah. But basically, I'm up trying to improve my everyday carry and consolidate and condense it so I don't have to carry so many tools. And this is one of the tools that I've actually used for many years. I know a lot of people talk about like different tool companies all the time. If you've been an electrician, you know exactly which brand I'm about to mention right now. It's one of those electrician favorite ones. I prefer Weha and Wera tools generally, but I still haven't found a replacement that's as nice for this for an everyday carry for your small precision screwdriver needs, because it has all your bits over here too. And of course, it's really nice to hold. So, it's actually really nice. This is the Klein 27-in-1 precision screwdriver. So, it can do a whole bunch of different bits in here. The shaft is fixed in the acrylic, but the bits can be adjusted over here. And it's got a whole bunch of different ones to like security torques. You got precision security torques and all of that. So, yeah, really great little everyday screwdriver that I think is going to be good for most of my everyday precision bit needs. And then what I'm going to do is have that accompany, just in case, the iFixit toolkit. But I'm not going to carry this around all day. This is going to probably just be like, oh, I need the bigger precision bits. There's a few other more precise things. I'll probably hand this over to my buddies in the village, or they'll have their own tools. We'll figure it out. I do have these. I have this original Cobalt set. I actually like this a little bit better than iFixit, but Cobalt doesn't make this anymore, at least to my knowledge. But they made a really nice driver set, and I like their case a lot better. And the bits, I think, were a little bit better quality than the iFixit one. A screwdriver, a wire cutter. Oh, I can get wire. I have tons of wire cutters. I have Klein wire cutters and strippers and all that around here. But that's the precision one. And then what I needed was a screwdriver for everyday screwdriver stuff needs. Now, here's the thing. I need to confirm the length, actually, of the precision screwdriver, because if it's longer than 7 inches, I'm going to have to check that. I think I'm going to have to check this. Yeah, I may have to check this. I'll double check it. But I know this guy over here, again, same situation. Screwdriver I've used for years. Just for some reason I can't find it. It's probably in the house somewhere, and I'll have a second one. But this is the Wera KK25. Kilo 25. And the great thing about this is actually TSA compliant. I don't know where my original one is, but the original one that I had, I've taken with me to Morocco. I've literally taken it across the States. It's been to 2 DEF CONs with me. I just bought this in case. Because, again, it also won't hurt to have 2, because then I can, you know, have a second. But anyway, the handle lets you take this bit out completely. And this bit's actually really useful for when you're running a drill bit. I mean, a cordless drill. And then you have a lot of your basic bits over here. All right? So that's great on its own. But this year, I'm adding one thing to it. This Wera Universal, what's it? The BC Bravo Charlie 30 Universal 1. So it's got a whole bunch of bits over here. Now, it does have also the wrap adapter, too. I do like these. These are like... A lot of people are like, what do you need that for? And I'm like, it makes changing bits a lot easier. And a lot of people are like, but Wera tools are so expensive. And I like to tell people the honest truth is, I know they seem expensive, but once it's really hard to explain good tools until you have them in your hand and you're starting to use them and you're like, wow, I like that. But yeah, so the tools for the everyday carry to slim down for most of my needs are basically going to be 2 of these are, as I've said, ones I've already used for years. I just couldn't find the original ones I had and didn't feel like searching anymore. The Klein 27-in-1 precision screwdriver that has all the various bits over here. It's got security torques and a bunch of others. So this on its own pretty much is going to be suitable for just about everyone's needs in the field. And then we have the Wera KK25, comes with a little pouch over here, and has the little extendable handle over there. And you have all the regular bits. And you can also take the wrap adapter out and put that into a drill if you so desire. It actually is nice for clicking into the various bits. And this is, I've proven that this is TSA compliant. I've taken this with me around the world. Never really had more of an issue than them pull it out, take a look at it, put it back in, and then shove it back in the bag. There is also, to expand that Wera's capability, the Wera BC Bravo Charlie Universal 1 bit set over here, which again has another wrap adapter. Wait, over here. Wrap adapter, which is great for drills. It's a smaller one than the one that came in the screwdriver, obviously. But then you have all these bits, so I think between this set over here, you'd cover just about everything. And then, like I was saying, you combine it with the iFixit kit that I already have over here for the rest of the bits. I think you have a pretty solid tool set to travel with, and it doesn't weigh that much. And then these 3 I can take with me for most of the convention. Wera and Weha. Yeah, those are my preferred brands as well. I'm starting to replace more and more stuff with Wera. Like, these are off camera here, but these are actually my everyday screwdrivers that I use. Unfortunately, they're a little bit too long for TSA, and I don't feel like checking them and running the accident of getting confiscated like I did a couple others, but I have this guy with all the various different bits over here. So I usually use these bits, but then I have this ratcheting handle over here. So this combo is actually my favorite. Actually, I think I just should probably move the handles over, because I'm like, may as well just keep the set all in one place. But yeah, I really love Wera and Weha. They're really solid. I'm planning to get some Weha tools for more electrical work and everything. And they just last. you teach me how to load 12 terabyte of furry images on the government computer? You gotta go find a furry for that. Sorry, a lot of my friends are furries, but I'm not. DeWalt makes some good tools with compartments. I use DeWalt too. That's my cordless drill set of choice. I don't want to hear it from any of you tool bros, especially you Milwaukee people. I have a drill. It works. I may not be heavily doing carpentry every single day, but I just need a drill that works. So I'm in the DeWalt ecosystem. That's the one thing they don't tell you about becoming an adult. Now, what they don't tell you is when you go to buy power tools, you have to make this decision of which brand you're going to get. It's not just, oh, I'm going to get a cordless drill, because that cordless drill is going to kick off the decision of the entire ecosystem that your life is going to be surrounded by. You know what I'm talking about. How often do you find somebody that has Ryobi and something else, or DeWalt and something else, other than maybe one-off little things? Don't even get us started on the Milwaukee people. I mean, well, Milwaukee people will literally live in a Milwaukee toolbox as their house. And then the Snap-on people, they're paying their mortgage payment to their toolbox still. We have it work due to the fact that they're fully insulated. Yeah, I was looking at them for their ESD stuff. They have a precision set that I really like, but I didn't feel like trying something new while I'm at DEF CON. I'm like, let me buy the Weehaw stuff later, and let me go get the Klein stuff that I know at least I'm comfortable with now. You get what I'm saying? But Klein is always a solid brand to go to as well. It's just, they're more on the electrician side. I guess telecommunications. It's the anti-opera guy. Those are lies. I have nothing against a good opera. Now the opera browser, on another hand. Okay, that's true. Someone's gonna die soon since no electricity. Ooh. Hopefully you get your power back soon. Hope you're doing well. Alright. So, we got tools. And we got the lock picks. Next week, I don't know. Did I mention this last stream? I don't think I did. But if you're on Instagram and my socials and everything, next week we're gonna be, instead of doing the regular review on stream content, we're gonna be going through my Infocon hard drive. So here's what I will tell you, is that if you have anything in particular that you're wanting to see for Hacker Summer Camp, the hacker documentaries and everything, go to the website infocon.org. In there is every single file that's in there. Now, I only have the stuff up until DEF CON 32's talks. So they may have some new stuff, because I have to bring my drive that we're going to actually be viewing on to Vegas to get it reformatted and re-imaged with the entirely new data set of Infocon 2026. Because I have Infocon 2025. Give it 1 week before the Chinese strike the video. Well, here's the thing. TikTok is not really owned by the US or anything right now. The US side. Oracle basically does. That's old news at this point. But, yeah. So we got our screwdrivers. We got that going. I gotta modify the GG tag, but I may do that when I'm out there and just focus on getting the 3D printer up and running. I'll do that this weekend. Government sucks with electricity. Oof. Somebody get them a generator. Is Try Hack Me a good way to learn cybersecurity? I mean, I hear some people use it. I've never used it, or Hack the Box, or any of those things. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it's an option I've heard that people can use. I just haven't had the times to do CTFs between all the other stuff I'm doing. And we're gearing up for generator needs gas or fuel and it's expensive. So fart in it. Just get on a very, very gassy diet. I mean, here's another idea. Did you know that an elephant produces enough gas in the average day to power the average car about 20 miles? If you have an elephant nearby, just saying. You can fart all your problems away. I know, I'm just joking, but they would probably confiscate my gas and sell it. Did the United States occupy your country, buddy? Because that sounds like it's straight out of the U.S. military. They got oil! We gotta come over and give them some freedom! Yes. Oh, God. What a fact. Didn't even click on the stream yet. Welcome to Chief Geek 3D streams. Normally we talk about tech and cybersecurity, but then ADHD gets in the way and then it all goes to fucking hell. In 2000, Uncle Sam and left his mark. So basically, Uncle Sam came over, took several shots of moonshine, pissed his name into your ground, and said, y'all got freedom. And then fell over fucking drunk in the pile of piss that he just did. Am I right? Bro, the reason why I make sure that I, shower every day is because if I have too much grease, I'm sure the United States military is going to confiscate my ass and then try to, drill me for oil. And I don't want to be drilled. I'm a top. I swear to God, I'm sober. All right. Alright, let's get to the review on Steam stuff. Where did we leave last time? And then next words. In 2 weeks we'll have DEF CON, so like I said, next week is going to be us just going back on old hacker documentaries and lore and all of that stuff. Wait, that's 713. I think I scrolled back too far. Alright, hold on. Where did I leave? Excuse me.
Div Patel 9871 is now chilling in the lab.
Hey, thank you for the follow. How'd you go by avoiding, I don't know what you're saying because the words... I mean, I see there are words, but they're not making sense to me. You want to try that again? You might have had autocorrect or something mess something up. Hey, I want to start cybersecurity. Where to start? At the beginning. Usually helps when you start at the beginning of things. I mean, unless you're a psychopathic heathen that is like the people that bite a Kit Kat in the middle of a Kit Kat. I swear to God, one person once bit a Kit Kat looking straight at me in the middle of a Kit Kat. You know, not like, you know, oh, we just broke it off. Like, no, like straight up. 4 pieces, just in the middle. That's psychopath behavior. Whether they were staring at me or not. I don't even know if they were staring at me. They may have just been staring at my direction. Either way, that's weird. Any workshop or competition you're hyped about in DEF CON? Yeah, so, you know the workshops are all sold out in like 90 seconds, right? That being said, I landed too. I got very quick fingers. There's a reason why it ain't been hard to keep ladies around with my poly bi ass. But in all seriousness, I landed 2 workshops. So I had a game plan beforehand of 4 workshop. Well, there was like a total of 6 I was looking at. The idea is you want a primary and a secondary for each day. I didn't look at when I hit register for each one. And I landed the main one I wanted on one day, but I landed my backup on that same day, not the primary or secondary that I wanted for the second day. So I ended up taking what is the modern red teaming workshop from DEF CON is what I have.
Issues is now
and I
chilling in
gave
the
to
lab.
my buddy Parrot the Bluetooth hacking one that I landed. So they're going to do that. And then I bought 4 of the workshops at B-Sides. So if you're going to B-Sides Las Vegas, one of the things I forgot to put in my video was they do have workshops at B-Sides Las Vegas. They're not free like they are at DEF CON, not to be confused with the trainings. But the workshops at B-Sides, or the training grounds as they call them, are $5 each. Plus booking fees. So I spent 26 bucks and some odd cents to get 4 classes. So I'm going to be busy in workshops and stuff. And I don't know what I'm really going to focus on studying this time. This time I might end up staying around the Industrial Control Systems Village a little bit more. On top of my buddies at the call center village, which I will be at. Primarily because my new job is touching on some industrial control systems. And I'm learning more about OT security practices and things like that. Oh, thank you for the follow. Issues? Okay. 90 seconds? Yeah. DEF CON workshops, Gits did not believe me. So, the closer that we're getting...
_BW is now chilling in the lab.
Thank you for the follow. So, Gits did not believe me, because this is his first DEF CON, and he's getting passenger princess treatment. I told him straight up, like, because he's getting an inhuman badge as a volunteer for the call center village, so he doesn't have to wait in line con like everyone else does, and I had to do the past 3 DEF CONs. And I'm like, you don't have to wait in line con. I think out of principle, you should wait in line, and I'll give you your badge after you've just stood in line for an hour. Because seriously, it's an experience I think everyone has to go through. It's like the equivalent of, like, why I get upset at anime fans today, because you did not get a swirly getting bullied for being an anime fan. Nowadays, it's cool. Lucky bastards. Yeah, I'm new to stream. I usually watch your YouTube videos. I want to know your thoughts about cloud security, the cybersecurity field, market perspective, technical PV. That's kind of part of what I do. So like right now, I'm working on the CI/CD and holistic sides of it. There's a lot of different parts and pieces to it. Technically, I'm called a cloud and endpoint engineer, which basically means big fancy title for I work on the endpoint computers, so your servers, your workstations, and all that to make sure they have the security that they need covered. And the cloud, of course. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. It's kind of hard to like really condense all the things that are in cloud very easily, but it's a very broad subject. There's a very different way you have to look at things too, because in the cloud, well, the idea of a cloud is that you're always able to connect to it, whereas an on-premise, you can air gap that thing entirely, and you know, there's whole security models, tools around it, and a lot more that it's worthwhile, I think, looking into it if that interests you. But I will say, cloud specifically is one of the parts of cybersecurity where you're going to need to know a little bit more scripting. The languages that tend to come up, at least in my experience, are Python, Bash, and Terraform. / OpenTofu, which is just Terraform, and it's open source. But that's pretty much where I have basically been for a lot of my things, and where I'm at my job right now. I'm helping them lead their direction on different things. Like we were just playing with Cortex, which is Palo Alto Cortex, I think it was. I think they just bought it. Anyway, we're looking at that. We're evaluating Wiz. We're evaluating a few different things on the cloud side of things. But I have basically a 3 to 5 year plan of what we're going to have to do where I'm at to mature things. But yeah, it's, I think, worthwhile. What's up, Nostalgia and Tosh? Learning offensive security, and how can I determine am I ready for first job? Well, the honest truth is, I hate to burst your bubble, and I'm not trying to sound like a dick at all. If that's your first job, then you're not ready. Offensive security is generally, in most cases, they're looking for people that have prior experience in the other parts of IT and or cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is not generally something most people can jump straight into without the prior IT knowledge. And that's not that it's impossible, it's just that it's improbable. The reason why I'm trying to set this realistic expectation is I see way too many people that go into cybersecurity and then try to go straight into offensive security, but don't have any other background, and then just drop it entirely because they get disillusioned with the fact that there's often many other steps that precede that. Now, it's not that I don't know people that have gone straight into being a pen tester, but those are more the exceptions, because the couple of people that I know that have done that were very remarkably gifted individuals that were already making pretty big waves at early ages. Not like, oh, they, crashed the FBI like some of you are thinking. It's just they were progressed very far to the point of where you would expect someone to be 10 years into the field already. Which happens very often when people are at least given the opportunities to start early on, and that's how it happens. So I would say you need to look at, do you know your base conceptual core knowledge before you can really look at the offensive side? And it's not that, and this is where I think a lot of people need to understand, you're not pigeonholed when you go in cybersecurity or IT, where it's like you have to be in this one specific piece of it forever. Oh, I'm a programmer. I'm going to be a programmer forever. I've met developers that have gone to cybersecurity. I've met cybersecurity people that have gone to be developers. I've met, you know, people that have gone all over. I mean, I came from networking and MSP. And here I am as a cybersecurity engineer. So you can start in other places and end up where you want to be. That's one of the great things I think about cybersecurity is you really can pivot into so many different aspects of the cybersecurity. One person can't do everything. DEF CON soon, yep. DEF CON is in 18 days. Love your content on TikTok. Currently in my final year studying cybersecurity. Any good projects you'd recommend are similar? So far I've done a Python FIM project along with an Active Directory. Integrated was a SIM agents, cross workstations with monitoring. Nice. So Eric, if you want, go look through my GitHub. There's a few projects that I have in there for my Docker SIM stack, which can build upon what you're talking about. You'll have to adjust some of the things for your needs. It builds on the WASA monitoring, but ties into other systems to give you a holistic view with Grafana. So now you have an observability dashboard. That can give you some more insights into that. If you haven't done networking, I definitely look into that. In pfSense, I have plenty of documentation in my GitHub under pfSense SimStack. So those are a couple of projects you can look at. There's also, like, plenty of other stuff, because there's, like, I think close to 40 repos in there. Got laid off from Google as a data center tech. I personally worked on Google Ironwood. Which one's Google Ironwood? And I am very, what's the... Wow, my brain broke. I am very sorry for your, recent layoff. That sucks. I'm sure you're gonna bounce back, but I mean the market overall kind of sucks right now. But I'm sure it'll all work out. I know plenty of people that have come from Google, or, you know, and the funny thing is I know someone that actually just got a job at Google. Funny how those things work. Would you recommend DEF CON for a beginner? I just want to learn more. If you can afford to go to DEF CON, and I'm not saying like put yourself into debt. I'm saying if you can honestly afford it, and you have that privilege, yes, it is definitely something beginners can join. There are talks and stuff for like Noob Village and all of that. Observe basic, you know, cybersecurity, hygiene and security. You know, don't give out your password, don't let people see, you know, don't log on to strange networks, and, you know, don't scan the random QR codes, that kind of thing. I mean, it's part of the fun there, though, is there's some QR codes you do need to scan for CTF. But the point still stands, just don't do anything stupid. But DEF CON is perfectly fine for beginners. I know plenty of beginners I've met at DEF CON. DEF CON, just like cybersecurity as a whole, is open to everyone of all backgrounds, and you have people of all different skill levels on different subjects. So there's something for everyone. All right. I'm on TikTok as a way to send your resume, my resume for review. I don't really do resume reviews. No offense. It's just I don't have the time and bandwidth to offer that to, you know, everyone. Now, I will say this: a lot of different cybersecurity conferences do offer resume reviews. Like, that is one thing. I think, what is it? The Noob Village, or one of them, or the Lonely Hackers community, one of them does resume reviews as well out there. I think B-Sides has them too. So, yeah. Or shows American, so I could visit. In Sweden, we only have DreamHack, and that's gaming only. Well, if you go over to Germany, you have the Chaos Communication Conference. That's coming up towards the end of the year. That's on my bucket list to go to eventually. Maybe with God's help, I'll be out there next year. Can't say I'll be there this year, but next year would be nice. Got my first analyst job, man. Nice! Happy hacking, Kakarot. Go Super Saiyan, motherfucker. Oh, Germany, I can refill the beer. Storage, too. Yeah. Now, Chaos Communication Conference is definitely a different vibe than DEF CON. Every cybersecurity conference kind of has their own vibe and culture, but there definitely is a huge cultural difference between American hackers versus European hackers versus Asian hackers. I got called a LARPer on Instagram for pointing that out and like, oh, you're just LARPing as a hacker? I'm like, no, this is just common knowledge. You go into other countries and cultures are different. And then the subcultures in different countries can vary wildly from the subcultures in other countries. Just like, I'm pretty sure, and I'm not that well versed, but I'm pretty sure if I went up to a goth person, there's a difference between you know, European goth and American goth. This is something I'm very happy. I just passed AWS Cloud Practitioner Cert. AWS Cloud Practitioner Cert as my first WoW words. Congratulations. Happy hacking. Wait, I think I have a... Nope, not that right sound. Nope, still. Third time's the charm. Now my first apprenticeship as a system integrator because of you. Hey! Awesome! Don't know how I helped. I'm pretty sure the credit goes all to you. But if I helped inspire you in any way, that's awesome. But let's be honest here. I didn't do shit. That's all on you. Congratulations. You made this happen. And I'm sure you're gonna be fucking doing amazing. And you're gonna be telling us about some awesome promotion in a year or two. And at that point, I don't want you to come back and say it's because of me. I want to say it's because of you pushing your fucking ass. Passed GNFA earlier this year. So bloody hard, barely passed it. Which one's the GNFA? Sorry, acronyms, words. GNFA. Oh, JIAC Network Forensic Analyst. Okay. Not familiar with the JIAC certs too much. I know they're pretty good. They're just kind of expensive, so none of my employers have really wanted to foot the bill for them. But congratulations. How much do you make yearly? Just for my first help desk. I make $142,000. I'm in the Midwest, so some people be like, that's a little low, but it's pretty good for where I'm at. Let's see, what do we want to try tonight? Cider it is. Alrighty. Let us go. In Sweden, I had to take ECDL before A+. It's actually a plastic card. European computer driving license. Wait. Hold up. Wait, what? This is a thing? European computer... Holy shit, this is a thing! Is this basically... Holy shit! Oh, bro, I'm looking at the breakdown here. Like, I didn't know there was something even more basic than A+. Like, you not, like, did you really have to prove, like, oh, I know how to do word processing. I know how to do a spreadsheet. And we can't forget about Microsoft Access. You had them, what? Good God. You actually had to do a test that boomers should have been doing since day zero. They haven't rolled that to the UK thing. I don't think they will, because I think this is a, that might be a European Union thing. I could be mistaken. I'm a little bit out of my depth, but I know the UK is not part of the European Union anymore. For that whole Brexit shit. Frickin' mango. Oh. You know, I had to think about this for a second. I don't think in my entire life I've ever had to go to a class and prove I know how to make a spreadsheet outside of high school. Okay, actually there was in community college, but that's why I dropped doing classes in the community college after a while and went electrician, because I'm like, F this. I am not posting, starting with this basic stuff. Just switch to Debian and you're happy with it. Nice. Quick question, A+ a good starting point or go straight to CCNA? Are you already working in a help desk position? Are you already working in IT? If so, skip it. It can't hurt you to break into the field, but I think the CCNA, in my opinion, is a little bit more valuable, CCNA or Network Plus, than just A+. I've never had that. I can't say that anymore because I had to get the A+ because of WGU. But up until February, I didn't have the A+ in my 15 years of being in IT and cyber. And like I said, my first certificate was the CISSP. So I like it. Not the best cider I've had, but it's good. Yeah, I'm a spreadsheet wizard. So what you said before sounds good. I was looking into running up Grafana and Prometheus to monitor my home lab anyway, so that works. Appreciated. Yeah, I already have that implemented in my stuff, so go look through my GitHub repo. Now, bear in mind, you'll read through the documentation and realize it was part of my experimentation for a hot-cold stack when it came, well, hot-warm stack when it came to open search databases, where basically I have the data. So the first 30 days of data are always held in the NVMe for rapid access storage. After 30 days, it gets offloaded to the open search database on the SATA SSD, the 2 terabyte there. Or is it 4? Either way, that was part of what the work was, so that I had a hot-warm setup. So that way I could always, I was trying to play around with tiered systems of storage. Did you drink all your girl drink? I haven't even drank one of those motherfuckers. The problem with them is they have 200 milligrams of caffeine. I only drink like V8 Energies most of the time that have like 80 milligrams of caffeine. I don't need to be vibrating at the speed fast enough that I can become like Fry from Futurama after he has 100 cups of coffee in that one episode. Ding! CCNA and ITIL V3 helped me when I entered into an L1 SOC position, my first job. Yeah. So here's the funny thing. I interviewed for my senior cybersecurity engineer position I'm in right now. And then that weekend, I took the A+ exam. And then, before I even started my job in March. So from the time I interviewed to the time I started, I got the A+, the Network+, the Security+, the ITIL V4, and ITIL V4, yeah. Because then I got the Linux Professional Institute, Linux Essentials, a week or two after I was there. Riddle, I had to do A+ for WGU too. Here's the funny thing. I didn't study for, like, any of these tests. Because it's all rudimentary knowledge, so I'm literally just going through. Now I'm waiting for them to grade my frickin' stupid Python, class. With the intro to IT automation, or Python, whatever. It's a Python class. And it's annoying me because I'm like, why can't I just send you my GitHub repo with tons of way more complex automations that I've already done, instead of having to do your entire lab of automations and have to screenshot every step? And it literally takes me 4 hours to do this assignment the way they want me to do it. I actually gave them such harsh feedback in the course where I said this is so out of touch with how we would do it in the real world, because you're already having us use GitLab, right? Why are you having us download our Git repo, download our commit history into a PDF, instead of you learn how to use Git and then have us do a code review inside of Git? Like, you should not be using Git as file storage. It is a version control system for collaboration. Still in the program? Yep, for right now. My hope is to graduate end of the year. Any tips on how to break into tech in the tough market? DMV areas rough with all the government workers being laid off. DMV area? Don't know what you mean by DMV, Department of Motor Vehicle? Anyway. Right now, the market's tough all over. Entry level is the toughest. The best thing you can do is help yourself stand out from the crowd of everyone. Everyone right now, I'm hearing, is doing the exact same things to get into this market in the exact same ways. So, if you do the exact same things in the exact same ways, how are you any different than any other applicant that comes through your door? At the end of it, it usually comes down to the people that you know. The doors, more of who you know than what you know. Go out there and network. Go to events. Meet people. Get your face out there. Talk to people. I've said that before. But also, when you are applying to all these different things, are you just thinking, oh, I'm going to go to college, and then I'm going to go get some certs, and then I'll apply? What, you think there's not 10,000, 20, whatever number you want to throw out there that don't have the exact same thought? Home lab. Tinker. Put that on your resume in ways that you can actually use the skills that you've learned in home labbing and say you've learned them. I've done that. That's why, like, everyone's impressed. Like, you know all this stuff? And they're like, how do you know all this stuff? How can you prove it? And I'm like, go to my GitHub. And they're like, oh. Okay. And I've beaten people out that have all the pieces of paper. Now, this is, of course, specific to the American market and a bit of the European market. This isn't gonna fit for everyone. There are cultural differences, I understand, for some of my audience in different areas, that there are the unfortunate things of you have to do things in a certain way because that's how it is. But I can tell you, at least from my experience, the way I've done things, I don't think I would have changed much of anything if I had to do it all over again. I maybe would have been a little bit smarter about the money I spent on some of the hardware and projects that I did, but Yeah. Good to see you again. 2 weeks till DEF CON. Yes, 2 weeks! Is GitLab similar to GitHub? Yep. Just different platform. They're all based on Git. DC, Maryland, Virginia. Ah, yeah, government. Yeah. How much should a person with 15 years of experience in IT get you in salary? It doesn't necessarily mean just the amount of time that you're in the field, but the knowledge that you have in things. Like, the honest truth is, I know people who have spent 15 years basically through help desk and more basic parts of IT, and they make less than I do. Because, well, they're not as specialized. And this is just something you learn in many different fields. That's how it is. But generally speaking, and I'm going off Midwest numbers, so adjust your numbers accordingly for coastage, you know, prices and premiums and things like that. But in the Midwest, I'd say 115 plus. What'd you spend money on? Computers. Lots and lots of tech hardware. A lot of which that I could have probably been more wise in how I spent the money. What is Codecrafter? Codecrafter is a partner of mine that I actually have. I am affiliated with them. They help you do various different projects so that you can level up your coding skills. Not generally something I'll recommend brand new beginners to go into, but like once you start having the fundamentals of like any language, like, oh, you want to learn how to make a BitTorrent client in Rust or Python or whatever, yeah, it's great. Totally recommend them. Newer eBay hardware. Oh, mix. More of it probably could have been used. What'd you think of this about the CEO of Flock calling D-Flock an Antifa terrorist organization? Hold on. Where? It's never around whenever I need to do dramatic effects. Anyway.
Kick ass. I could say
Hey, now everyone can eat. Get money in the daytime, even get it when I sleep. Wake up to getting bread, bitch, I do this for the streets. ADHD.
Sentai Pinky just subscribed.
Hey, Cinti Pinky, appreciate you. Happy hacking, bud. So, about the, Flock president calling, the D-Flock people terrorists and Antifa. That's what I think. Come and get it, motherfucker. Because here's the thing. Alright, so I'm in some of those D-Flock groups for my local group. I'm not giving away much more than that. Now, let me make this very clear. We're not doing anything dangerous or, advocating for vandalism or anything like that. We're actually going and protesting and trying to organize for when cities are talking about things and all that. We found out one of the cities nearby, it's on Instagram, I think it was Columbus, they actually are having their talk on Flock with public comments during DEF CON. And I was like, I can't confirm they intentionally did that knowing the cybersecurity advocates and everything would be out of town, but I'm like, that is mighty awfully convenient. Anyway, what song was that? Shit, it's a song from a local artist. I knew them a while ago. They gave me permission to use their song for my streams. From Snicka, like snickering, Snicka, Philosophical. Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you. I like this shirt too. I'll be interested to see what the DEF CON 34 shirts are like. Because you damn know I'm gonna be getting some. I have to talk myself out of buying more DEF CON badges, because there's more badges that are getting released as we're getting closer and closer to DEF CON. And I found like a Hack the Planet shitty add-on, and an EMF Spectre reader that actually will do like word libraries, so as it detects EMF, it'll be like, ghosts are talking to you. I thought that'd be great to F with people. I have to talk myself out of buying those, because I'm already like, Chief, you pre-ordered a $400 Free Willy 2 so you could do industrial control system and other hacking shit. And then I also, like, pre-ordered, like, 9 badges, one of which is already here for the Florida Man party. I gotta start playing with their CPF. Yeah, Florida Man badge. I've got the Clipboy. I've got like, oh, there's so many different ones that you're gonna see, and I have to like, I got a badge for laser tag, so I'm gonna be doing laser tag with LoRa radios to broadcast the scoreboard. So we're gonna be doing laser tag with the badge. I've got a monorail con badge. I've got. You'll see once I'm at DEF CON all the badges that I got, because I'm going to be starting to pick them up through Hacker Summer Camp. I probably am going to be doing some of the pickups at B-Sides as I probably start running into more and more creators. I'm pretty sure I'm going to run into the Clipboy guy. That'll be fun. How hard is the A+? Gonna take it within the next week. Well, I didn't study for the A+ and I passed it. Let me put it this way. I'm not the best person to judge on the difficulty of the A+, because as far as I see, it is rudimentary and very basic computer knowledge that you should know in your entry-level part of the field. If you don't know the technical things, yeah, it's going to be difficult. But if you know the basics of a computer, how to do a ticketing system, you know, a lot of that basic troubleshooting stuff, dude, it's a cakewalk. You enjoyed it last year? Yeah, this year's going to be a little bit different. So, there's a possibility I might be doing some live streams from the village. So, if I do any live streams at DEF CON, it most likely will be at the village. Hey, money in the daytime, even get it when I sleep. Wake up to getting bread, bitch, I do this for the streets. ADHD.
Sentai Pinky just gifted subs to 5 penguins.
Hey, thank you for the 5 gifted subs over there. If you got a gifted sub from Cinti, give her a thank you. Give them a thank you. I worded that bad. How much networking is really on the A+? Networking is not too much on it. There's basics of like, you know, like do you have an IP address and things like that, but the networking is more on the networking plus. Love your content, man. Out of curiosity, is Linux for almost all your PCs? Yep. There are only 2 computers in this entire house out of a couple dozen machines in operation, from Raspberry Pis on all up to the bigger thing, that are running Windows. One is the Stream PC over here, which I also use as a bare metal Windows test box for other Windows stuff I do. And then there's the laptop that I have set up just for WGU's Proctor software, which, once I finish WGU, will be wiped to a Linux laptop again. So we'll be back to 1 Windows device in this house. Not counting the boyfriend's laptop. But yeah. What's your take on Mac OS? I used to be a Mac user. I'm not an Apple hater. I'm a scorned Apple user. Apple has really done the Mac line dirty over the past few years, from the lack of repair, right to repair, to there's been a few build quality issues. I don't want to hear it from you Apple people. I've done enough Apple repair, not just on my own computer, but I did it professionally at 1.2. That's how I actually learned about Louis Rossmann back in the day, because I watched a lot of his videos for hardware repair videos. But yeah, they soldered components, things like that. But the Mac OS operating system, I mean, it used to be pretty good. The problem was Apple never really gave it the attention that it really needed to be a modernized operating system for modern work. What I mean by that is people are going to be like, what do you mean? It's a modern operating system. It can do all that. If you run it inside of a business environment, it's horrible. Mac for many years didn't even really care about virtualization. They were the last one to the party on virtualization. In fact, they were the last one to the party when it came to the whole full desktop experience on ARM. Windows was the first on ARM, then Linux was second, then Mac was. And you might be like, well, Mac did it best. I'd be like, technically Linux kind of set the trend. But I use Mac at work. But I'll be honest and say I would much rather have Windows 11 with Windows Subsystem for Linux in a business environment than I would a Mac computer, if that tells you anything. Yep, many companies switch to Windows for editing. Yeah, I don't use Mac for any of my editing or creative work. I might be moving to an iPhone for recording video instead of my Samsung with the Pro version of the phone, but that has nothing really to do with that, and more that I did buy the iPad as well as part of my other work, and I realized DaVinci Resolve works on that pretty well, and I'm like, if I can somehow, I was already planning to do DaVinci Resolve, if I can start pre-editing on the iPad using the iPhone to record and then transfer over using USB 3 to do prep work for when I bring it to the desktop or the laptop, that could save me a lot of time and money. Well, not money, but time, definitely. Well, time is money, so yeah. Android on ARM was first. Android used Linux kernel. I think Raspberry Pi came a little bit before. I could be wrong. What is DEF CON? DEF CON is the world's largest cybersecurity and hacker convention. There's about 30,000 people that descend upon Las Vegas from all over the world to hang out, party, talk tech, hack together, do cool shit, participate in CTF, capture the flag contests. But yeah. Apple users will glaze Apple devices no matter what. Well, the problem is, that a lot of the Apple users have no real personality or identity, that they have to make Apple devices their personality or identity. You ever meet those kind of insufferable people that are so devoid of soul and personality that they then make some weird thing that they happen to hold or be or whatever their everything about their identity, instead of realizing that you are a multifaceted, multidimensional person, and if you can't find more than one dimension of yourself, that means, well, you need to go touch grass. And as I like to point out to people, when a Linux using cybersecurity professional who is telling you as a nerd that you should go touch grass, then you should really reevaluate your life choices. Other beginner CTS at DEF CON or there's beginner stuff. There's something for everyone. They even have, I'm not even kidding, what is it called? DC Next Gen, I think it's called, which is literally geared for children. So now you have parents that are in cybersecurity bringing their kids, and they're now getting kids into cybersecurity. And when I'm talking kids, I literally was in a password cracking competition with an 8-year-old girl one time, and she kicked my ass. I'm proud of that fact. I got my ass handed to me by an 8-year-old girl. I remember looking at the dad being like, dude, you must be so proud right now. Because she beat several people, to be fair. It wasn't like, it's a one-on-one. There were 6 of us. I use MacBook with a graphic designer, but I have a Linux rent PC. It's funny. I know more graphic designers who use Windows than Linux. I mean, then Mac. Of course, then Linux. I'm going to college for cybersecurity. Any tips? Yes, don't eat the yellow snow. Look, if y'all are just going to give me broad questions, I am going to, that set me up, I'm going to knock them down. Yes, yeah, but just like, yeah, be a sponge, learn everything, tinker as well in your, in home lab things. Don't just think that you're going to learn everything in a classroom. Classroom is barely going to scratch the surface. Internships are a good thing, too. Alright, let me see if I can find where I was last time. Wait, was it 13? I did not mark where I was last time, so I'm just have to guess this. Alright, so we were there. No, I don't think we watched any of this shit. Did we? No, I don't think we did. Alright. David... data basement? What is data basement? You burn PTO to go to DEF CON? Nope! That's part of the reason why I like this new job. I do not have to take PTO for cybersecurity conferences, even if I pay my own way.
What?
Oh, and here's the funny thing. You know that VP that got fired? That's the reason why I actually left the last job I was at? Turns out he was doing things that were very much against my last job's policy, including making employees have to use PTO for conferences. And he also had this requirement that they would only reimburse certifications if you passed it, all the materials and everything. That was apparently never the company policy. Like, the dude is like... Oh, and the hilarious part, I still say, was that he apparently applied for a position at my job in a different department, but by virtue of my boss, who happens to be like one of the directors, happens to know that I worked at the place that that other guy worked at before, he brought me in and asked me questions like, do you happen to know a person by name? And I'm like, can I close the door for what I'm about to say? Because I don't want anyone to hear it. And he's like, I don't give a shit. Closes the door. Spend like 15 minutes telling him about all the shit that he's done that's toxic and everything. He's like, okay, so needless to say, we're not going to recommend him get the position. I'm pretty sure I'm the reason he didn't get the position. Anyway.
So, guys, so we got an open source, self-hosted database backup management system. Definitely check this out, guys, if you need to host your own things, yeah?
Data basement? Let's check that out. GitHub.com. And then let's go, what is it? Data basement? Yep, that was it. Not too popular of a project. I mean, it's got plenty of stars, but... Huh. This actually could be useful. I might be able to use that to back up the databases that I use in my systems a little bit easier. Can a vibe-coded SaaS good onto market? Do you mean go onto? I mean, yeah. People have done it. I mean, look at Microsoft. They're basically one giant SaaS app now. All right, what's this?
RoboCop definitely runs on MS-DOS.
I mean, makes sense. It's the 1990s.
If you pause it and you see all the letters on the loading screen, you see .sys,
Yep,
.sys,
yep,
and
yep.
.exe, which is...
Yep, Yep, that was a thing. Well, because everyone knew MS-DOS at the time. It was just kind of like the synonymous thing. People didn't know about Linux and stuff, really, in most of the mainstream at the time.
Definitely Windows DOS language. On the other side of it, Terminator is on Mac code.
Wait, what? Okay, what?
So if you read some of like the Terminator words coming across, you see words like QuickTime Player and key.
I am the Terminator. Now, would you like me to play Rick and Morty Season 1 Episode 3.mov? Let's say it's like try to hack me. I mean, some people say it's pretty good.
Chain. So Terminator is running on Mac and RoboCop is running on Windows, which honestly explains a lot about their exterior.
Holy shit, yeah, it does.
Like, one of them spent a lot of time on the sleek, nice exterior, and the other was just like, just put metal stuff around it and slap a face on top of it. And we're good.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Wait, hold on. What is this? Solar Punk is Gen Z's future.
Our veteran sacrifice.
Alright, so what is this? Oh, Solar Punk, the game that I've been playing? Okay, what's going on?
Imagine a world where vibrant greenery strikes your eyes the moment you wake. The air you breathe is filtered and refreshing. The technology you use runs on clean energy. Solar panels blend seamlessly into the architecture, while living walls and rooftop gardens surround you. Rainwater is collected instead of wasted, and buildings are covered in plants instead of advertisements. This is the aesthetic of solarpunk, a social movement that envisions and works towards building a sustainable future interconnected with nature and community.
Hold up. It's an actual term for a movement, not just a game? Oh, you got a Steam game called Solarpunk? Yeah, we were playing it last night on stream for Gaming on Linux Night. I've been playing it for the past few weeks. It's actually been really fun and addictive. Yeah. I think there's a multiplayer mode. We should totally get, like, several people to play one night. Yeah, damn no, I need sticker. It's a term? Huh. You know the weird thing is, the aesthetic of Solarpunk, if you think about it, I'd actually like that. You know, when you're talking about, like, what he's talking about, like, you're in buildings that are covered with plants instead of advertisements and all that. I've been very much into, like, getting nature to reclaim things. I'm, like, trying to coax the native vegetation to take over my yard, in fact, instead of traditional grass.
There's just one problem. Most of it doesn't exist. So is solarpunk simply another impossible idealistic internet aesthetic, or could it actually become the blueprint to rebuilding our cities, and maybe even our entire relationship with the planet? In his book, Capitalist Realism, Mark Fisher writes that it is easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. Whether or not you agree with his conclusion, his observation about our collective imagination feels incredibly accurate. Over the past few decades, depictions of humanity's seemingly inevitable dystopian collapse have become some of our most influential cultural stories. Movies like I Am Legend and TV shows like The Walking Dead depict a world where virus outbreaks lead to the near extinction of humanity. Video games like Cyberpunk 2077 portray technologically advanced futures defined by dim atmospheres, neon lights, and power-hungry corporations. The reason these stories resonate is because conflict attracts us to stories. A world where everyone was happy and free and stable wouldn't exactly make for the most compelling TV show or video game.
Yeah, all I could think about is if you had that, I'd be one of the people joining in the chorus going, Grrr!
But another reason is that they
I love the fact that, you know, I'm bi and I can say these things.
reflect many of our genuine anxieties about the future. Climate change, political instability, and AI automation have made dystopian futures feel like plausible outcomes. So it's no surprise that our culture has become extremely good at imagining collapse. But what if we did something far more difficult and imagined what success looks like? What if we didn't automatically assume that collapse was inevitable? Those are the questions that Solarpunk attempts to answer. The word solarpunk combines solar, representing renewable energy and sustainability, with punk, representing resistance to the status quo. The origins of solarpunk begin with an unassuming blog post from 2008 written by an anonymous blogger, Republic of the Bees, titled From Steampunk to Solarpunk. In the blog post, Republic of Bees describes the design of the Beluga Skysail, a hybrid cargo ship that uses sail power to supplement the ship's engines, resulting in fuel savings between 10 to 35%.
Wow.
So, in honor of the Beluga Skysail's maiden voyage, they write, I'm going to suggest a new literary genre, solarpunk. Unlike steampunk, which imagines an alternate history where Victorian steam technology continued to evolve, solarpunk revolves around a much more practical question. If fossil fuels were no longer cheap or no longer sustainable, what technologies would naturally evolve to replace them? Rather than imagining impossible inventions, Republic of the Bees imagines existing engineering principles pushed to their logical conclusion, combining centuries-old systems with modern ones. That's why the Beluga Skysail became the movement's honorary cargo ship. Instead of abandoning sailing altogether, engineers combined centuries-old wind power with modern...
We should make more solarpunk movies, push people that way instead of...
In other words, is about rediscovering what...
I mean, I'm all for a sustainable lifestyle that, you know, like, we move towards energies that can be more renewable overall. But that would require modernizing so much of the grid. That would require so many different enhancements, and that would also require a societal, psychological, and ethical shift. The problem is, ironically, and I'll get to the irony of it in a second, we have people that are so far individualist that they're doing it to their detriment. And the irony is a lot of these people that are like the extremist individualist go around preaching ideologies that talk about helping your neighbor. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
What the past already got right, reintegrating it with present-day advancements, and discarding what clearly isn't working. Republic of the Bees also argued that, unlike most speculative fiction, solarpunk didn't have to remain speculative. Many of its ideas, like renewable energy, passive architecture, wind-assisted shipping, and local food production, already exist in some form. The biggest challenge is intentionally deciding to build a society around them.
Yep.
I actually really like the way the initial solarpunk future was described, because unlike the internet aesthetic that currently dominates the idea, Republic of the Bees assumed that this transition would be difficult. He assumed it would be politically messy, filled with conflicts over energy, economics, and entrenched interests. You know what else?
I agree with that. Because the problem is, the elite, wealthy, and rich of today care more about maintaining their power of today than how it will affect their children tomorrow. As long as they can die in their status quo, they don't give a crap. I hate to say it this way, but a lot of the older generation doesn't think the ways that they should, where we want to leave the world in a better place for our children. Some people really just are so selfish, they want to extract as much as they can for the entirety of their life cycle.
Else is way too difficult to achieve? Finding doctors that actually take your healthcare insurance.
You know what's also difficult to achieve? Skipping this ad.
Relatively niche for the next several years. Then, in 2012, Brazilian editor Gerson Lodi Ribeiro published the first solarpunk anthology, Solarpunk, Historias Ecológicas y Fantásticas en un Mundo Sustentável. It was the first serious attempt to turn this loose collection of ideas into an actual body of fiction. Imagine...
You could tell he was reading off the teleprompter for that. I know, because I have a teleprompter that I read off.
Sustainable societies that weren't post-apocalyptic or technologically primitive. But solarpunk didn't really become recognizable until it found a home on the internet. In 2014, artist Olivia Luis published a Tumblr post that would end up defining the movement's vision.
Tumblr. Are you fucking kidding me? Tumblr. I ain't used Tumblr in a decade. I forgot Tumblr existed.
Visual identity for years to come. Instead of the sterile white minimalism that often dominates futuristic architecture, she imagines something warmer, Art Nouveau-inspired buildings draped in greenery, stained glass solar panels, communal greenhouses, walkable streets lined with independent businesses, handcrafted goods,
I
renewable
like this
energy,
aesthetic.
technology that felt like it belonged to the natural world. Those illustrations spread rapidly across Tumblr, Pinterest, and later Instagram, eventually becoming the images most people associate with solarpunk today. The original blog post was primarily concerned with
Tumblr, the good old days. Yeah, before Yahoo bought it and ruined our porn. Now we all gotta go too. If you know, you know.
engineering and economics, but then Tumblr gave it an aesthetic language. Neither is inherently more important than the other, but as beautiful images started to spread across the internet, much more than discussions about how to actually build that future, the imagery became more distinct and important than the actual design philosophy that inspired it. So what is the realistic, useful design philosophy of solarpunk instead of the idealistic aesthetic we typically associate with it? And how close is that aesthetic to practical design? Rather than asking how cities can dominate nature, solarpunk asks how they can begin behaving more like natural ecosystems, and that idea actually has a name: biomimicry. In short, biomimicry is the replication of the models, systems, and elements of nature for the purpose of solving complex human problems.
I think we should become more like the Nox and Stargate, those whimsical, super advanced, species of aliens that were one with nature in Stargate. That's one race of alien we never really got to fully explore properly in Stargate. I would have loved to learn more about the backstory of what went on with them.
Janine Benyus, who popularized the field of biomimicry, summarizes it as learning from nature as a model, mentor, and measure. After nearly 3.8 billion years of evolution, nature has become remarkably efficient at regulating temperature, recycling waste, conserving water, and using energy. So biomimicry asks, what if we used nature as our design mentor? Take cooling, for example. Modern buildings typically fight heat by pumping enormous amounts of electricity into air conditioning systems.
Right.
Buildings simply didn't get that hot in the first place. This is where passive design enters the picture. Passive cooling relies on architecture itself to regulate temperature before mechanical air conditioning becomes necessary.
So I've actually thought about designing a house that does a lot of these features already. If and when I ever start making enough money. Because I think it'd be really cool to have a house that is actually environmentally sound in design. But yeah. I remember playing Stargate on my Sega Genesis. I've been on the hunt for a physical copy. Yeah. Hard to find Sega Genesis stuff, especially Stargate. That was such a niche thing back then.
Building orientation, cross-ventilation, thick walls that slowly absorb heat, shaded windows, overhanging roofs, internal courtyards, and carefully placed vegetation can dramatically reduce cooling demands. And many of these ideas aren't futuristic at all. They've existed for centuries in traditional architecture throughout the Middle East, North Africa, and Southern Europe before cheap fossil fuels made constant air conditioning practical. Now, modern architects are increasingly combining those ancient ideas.
And I got the notification that TikTok just restricted my live for unoriginal content.
With
Fuck you,
contemporary
TikTok.
materials and computer modeling. One of my favorite examples I came across was Zimbabwe's Eastgate Center. Inspired by the self-ventilating structure of termite mounds, architect Mick Pierce designed the building to circulate air naturally, significantly reducing the need for conventional air conditioning. This same sort of biomimicry
And he got that from anthills?
thinking can be applied to any other area of our cities and homes. For instance, transportation is currently one of the most inefficient, unsustainable forms of daily activity that is actively destroying the environment while also unnaturally segregating us from nature due to
It's only because my dogs refuse to let me teach them to do Alaskan sleigh dog, teams. I'm also in the Midwest, so there's not snow, which might be part of the problem, but I'm gonna blame the dogs.
to the sheer lack of walkability. It accounts for roughly 28% of all greenhouse gas emissions. To see a real-world solarpunk solution to this transportation problem, it's probably best to look at a city that you wouldn't initially consider to be like a solarpunk aesthetic, but it definitely applies the design philosophy, and that is Copenhagen. Roughly half of all trips
That
to
actually
work
makes
in the
sense.
city are made by bicycle because the city was intentionally designed to make biking one of the fastest, safest, and most convenient ways to get around. Protected bike lanes are physically separated from traffic, intersections are designed to prioritize cyclists and pedestrians, and an interconnected network of paths makes it possible to travel across much of the city without ever feeling like you're competing with cars. Also, let's talk about trains. One of the reasons trains appears so frequently in solarpunk artwork is because they're one of the most energy efficient ways we've ever invented to move large numbers of people.
Not to mention, if you put trains in your philosophy, you win over all the autistic people because we all like fucking trains!
According to the International Energy Agency, rail carries roughly 7% of the world's passenger travel,
Is it okay to use Parrot OS for daily use? Yeah.
while producing only about
I think this is bullshit. If these designs were practical, all big corporations would already make it. The issue isn't around practicality. That's not what they're discussing. In fact, they've made the point that it would be difficult to be accepted. There would be political battles and everything. The argument never has been that it's practical. The argument has been that it would require a radical shift in mindset. How's the train network in the USA? It's still easier to move people underground in our railroad network than it is above ground. That's a joke.
about 1% of transport-related emissions. An electrified rail powered by low-carbon energy becomes even more efficient. One of the greatest and probably the most efficient traveling experience I ever had was on Japan's bullet train, also known as the Shinkansen.
Never got to experience a Shinkansen yet, but I did get to experience German trains. Holy shit, those motherfuckers are accurate to like 3 seconds. I am not even kidding you. Like in Germany, I was on a train once. The train was 5 minutes behind. The Deutsche Bahn made all the drinks in the diner car free until they got back on schedule. You're damn right I had several beers and coffee in the morning. It was free. It's Germany. Nobody bats you in the eye when you're like, I want a beer for breakfast.
Since opening in 1964, the network has transported billions of passengers with 0 passenger fatalities from derailments or collisions in commercial service. The train...
No fatalities? In Japan? That is amazing, knowing about the, the seismic issues they have.
Trains routinely operate with average delays measured in seconds, not minutes. Now think about how much that sort of reliability changes daily life. Instead of gripping a steering wheel through rush hour and getting pissed at everyone that's trying to pass you, they can read, answer emails, or simply look out the window. The commute...
Dude, I miss the trains of Germany. I really do. Because of the reasons he mentioned. Like, do you know how great it was to just be able to be like, all right, I got 2 hours. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to grab a beer, grab a coffee, and then I'm going to knock out this, paper, whatever I got to do for this job I had to do at the time. And then could literally just, while you're like sitting there, like trying to think about something, you're looking outside and you're just seeing beautiful scenery.
Becomes much less stressful, which inevitably bleeds over to other areas of your life in a positive way, though Japan isn't necessarily the greatest place to live for natives from what I hear. Next, let's talk about the way that neighborhoods...
No country's perfect.
...in a solarpunk world. Urban planners generally define a walkable neighborhood as one where people's daily needs, like food, schools, parks, healthcare, cafes, and public transit, exist within a comfortable walking distance. One of the most influential ideas in modern urban planning is the 15-minute city, the idea that most of your daily needs should be reachable within about a 15-minute walk or bike ride from your home. Mixed-use zoning, where homes, shops, offices, and public spaces exist together rather than being separated into isolated districts naturally reduces car dependence while creating streets that remain active throughout the day. Research consistently associates walkable neighborhoods with lower transportation emissions, better public health, stronger local businesses, and increased social interaction. That means fewer 15-minute drives just to grab a gallon of milk, more opportunities to run into your neighbors, and public spaces that don't just become empty parking lots after 5 p.m. It turns out...
Yeah, a lot of people are moving remotes, yeah. Like, in my city, you know what? I'm getting so pissed off at the fucking mayor here because he's so fucking out of touch. We've had people move in by the millions, basically. I don't know about millions, but basically, Central Ohio is one of the hot spots for people to relocate to from all over the USA. Our transit is getting clogged. Our highways are getting, more congested. All right? Understandable. You know what this motherfucker's solution is? More buses! And I'm like, motherfucker! The city used to have a tram line. Do you need rail? We need intercity and intra-city and regional rail. Buses don't do this. And the bus system is already effed as it is. You want people to really just go on buses here in a city with an effed transit system as it is, where to get from one end of the city to the other takes me about 2.5 hours? No. Get on rail.
That designing cities around people instead of cars makes the city feel more alive too. Who would have thought? And in places like Copenhagen, the people themselves...
Buses here have bed bugs, wouldn't crawl to me. That doesn't surprise me.
Top 3
Because buses in the USA really suck.
countries in the World Happiness Report for over a decade, and Copenhagen itself was ranked the world's happiest city in the 2025 Happy City Index. In other words, our behavior...
I want to see something. Pretty much all those cities have public transit.
Happiest city is design, and when the design is in alignment with solar punk design philosophy, we tend to be happier and healthier. Now, even though many of these principles essential to solar punk...
You love public transit when living overseas, but here in the US you have no desire to experience it again. Yeah. When I am overseas, I've lived in Israel, I've lived in Germany, I've been in France, I've been in Morocco. I'll take public transit in all those places. Okay? I have been in bomb-proof buses. I will sooner be in a bomb-proof bus than I will be in most public U.S. transit. That's just how it is.
design already exists, there's still a huge piece of the puzzle that's often left.
German trains are never on time. They're notorious for being late. Oh, that's bullshit. German train stations were on time within seconds. I lived there. At least the long distance lines that I was using a lot.
Out of this discussion, feasibility. I don't think we should just dunk on the concept art and say, this is unrealistic. You know, it's important to have a visual identity behind this sort of movement, and imagining things that may not be super realistic is still important in and of itself, but we should also...
At least with rail, you can go up and up, over, and around things.
And
yeah.
What would it take? The problem is that the aesthetic compresses decades of engineering, politics, money, labor, and maintenance into a single beautiful image. For instance, take those pictures of vertical forests. When people imagine solar punk, they often imagine skyscrapers covered in trees, and the most famous real-world version of this is Bosco Verticale in Milan. The two residential towers host around 800 trees, 4,500 shrubs, and 20,000 plants across their facades, essentially turning the building into a kind of vertical ecosystem.
I like it. How do you water all the plants, though? Like, are they just natural vegetation that they're, you know, used to the amount of water that comes around? Like, I'm curious how that works. Because you can't expect everyone to just, like, water all those every day. Oh yeah, as part of your tenant contract, you must, put 3 gallons of water in all the plants every week. Rainwater or pump to roof. That's what I'm thinking. Something like that. They do have solar panels at the top, so I mean, it looks like they have some kind of system to generate power.
On flat land, that amount of vegetation would equal roughly 20,000 square meters of forest and under. So no, the idea is not impossible, it already exists, but can every skyscraper look like that? Probably not. Because once trees move from the ground to the side of a high-rise building, they cause a whole host of structural, irrigation, safety, and maintenance problems. The balconies have to support the weight of soil, trees, and water. Researchers studying the Bosco Verticale noted that maintaining high-rise vegetation requires careful water management and ongoing data about pruning and automated irrigation. Another thing art loves are rooftops covered in gardens, greenhouses, and food production. And again, this isn't complete fantasy. Green roofs can reduce and filter stormwater runoff, provide habitat, absorb pollutants, reduce heat islands.
I remember there was something huge about New York. They were talking about reducing heat islands with garden, was it city rooftop gardens?
Effects and add usable green space to dense cities.
You just woke up from passing out in the heat. Oof. You okay? Go and drink something. Something that is water. And maybe coconut water. No sodas. Or alcohol.
In cool buildings during warm weather.
You all right though, bud?
Useful, but can rooftop agriculture feed an entire city? Not remotely. Cities consume too much food, and rooftops have too little space, too many structural limits, and too many competing uses to replace large-scale agriculture. But that doesn't make rooftop farms pointless. It just means that their usefulness is different from the fantasy. They can supplement food systems, reduce heat, manage rainwater, and even create community spaces to reconnect people to the process of growing food. A surface that used to do almost nothing can start doing several useful things at once. That is a very solarpunk idea, but the same limitation appears again with solar panels. Solar panels are probably the most obvious visual symbol of solarpunk.
Right. But you can do wind and all those others.
One recent analysis estimated that America's rooftop solar potential could generate enough electricity to cover about 45% of US electricity use. That is...
I've actually talked about this before, when I've said that we as communities need to actually advocate for decentralized energy grids where neighbors actually have each person individually produce power, and then you have cells in each neighborhood that actually has a storage bank for that. That way, if there's a power outage, each individual neighborhood cell then could be independent. And it helps build towards that. Of course, that requires a large psychological and ethical mind shift, as well as there's a lot of politics around it.
Is huge, but notice what that number also means. Even if rooftop solar were fully built out, it still would not cover everything. Cities would still need regional grids. They would still need transmission lines. They would still need storage and backup generation. This is one of the least aesthetic parts of solarpunk, but it's also one of the most important. The International Energy Agency has warned that electricity grids are becoming a bottleneck in clean energy transitions, because renewable energy and electrification can only scale if the grid expands and modernizes alongside them.
And that goes into the point that I've said that, you know, they're looking at it from the perspective of you have these giant backhaul networks. We've all done massive road trips and we've seen these massive power lines that are much thicker cabling than we're used to with these long distribution networks. Okay? You need to work on decentralizing and modernizing that entire grid. And if we can lean more on renewable energy, even like you were saying, 45% of the USA, you do that in tandem with cities. Like my city actually has a renewable energy program. We actually have a field, I forget where it is exactly, with solar panels. And you can actually sign on to the community aggregated rate program where you have 100% renewable energy at a fixed rate that is actually a little bit below market on average. And that rate is fixed for 12 months at a time. Yeah, the rate gets established in June every year. And that has, I think they said a few megawatts of power. But anyway, the point being, this is a totally reasonable model. But of course, the reason why we're not doing that is because the people that would benefit from it don't have the financial resources to fight the big people that would lose a lot of money. Because, you know, right now we still live in a world right now where people are ruled by the almighty dollar. Even if all the dollars in the world can't help you when you're choking on pollution or whatnot. Or you don't have enough power to produce what you need. Or you can't, you know, you can go on, pick a million reasons.
Honestly, I think nuclear energy belongs in the solar punk conversation too. That might...
I agree with that. Nuclear energy should be part of that. Bring on the thorium molten salt reactors.
Might sound strange in a solar punk video because nuclear power doesn't have the same soft, leafy aesthetic as solar panels and rooftop gardens. But again, if the real goal is reliable, low-carbon energy, then the conversation can't be limited to what looks good in concept art. A serious clean energy system may involve not just solar and wind, but batteries, geothermal, hydro, and nuclear energy working together. So when people ask whether solar punk is realistic, I think the most honest answer is that some parts of it are, some parts of it aren't, and the most useful version isn't the image itself, but rather the design philosophy. In terms of what would actually get us closer to these things, there's a few priorities that I just want to list out for you, and I really encourage you to conduct your own research after this video, or even go into these fields like urban planning, like ecology, like agriculture, things where you can make an impact to create a more solar punk world in the future. And those priorities are zoning laws, transit investment, bike lanes, tree canopies, district heating, better building codes, rooftop solar, faster permitting for clean energy and transmission, repairable products, circular supply chains, and more local agriculture. None of these
makes sense to me
as a skyscraper covered in waterfalls and fruit trees, but they are much
nor does it as sexy as poison ivy from Batman being a plant, but I digress.
More real. The future will still probably involve the so-called uglier stuff like sewage systems and warehouses and construction workers, power lines, arguments over funding, stuff like that. But if the direction is right, the result could still be a world that feels radically different from the one we inherited. Thank you very much for watching, and if you studied solar punk for a while and I presented information that wasn't super accurate, or you just want to add something to the conversation, give people resources, whatever, leave a comment. I would love to see.
Oh, that was a good video. Didn't know solar punk was an actual term. Sodium ion batteries will be 80% cheaper and last longer? I mean, we already knew about sodium ion batteries being cheaper, but lasting longer?
This past June, the world's biggest battery company walked on stage
Sup, Dev?
and showed off a grid battery storage system with zero lithium. So today, I want to talk about CATL, the company that is the king of lithium-ion batteries, and why they're suddenly betting against it, and what's inside one of these cells that makes it so cheap, and why this might matter more than any other battery breakthrough we've ever talked about. I'm Ricky, and this is 2-Bit Da Vinci. This video is brought to you by Emergent. In Munich, CATL pulled the covers off of something it calls Tenor Sodium, a grid energy storage system, one of those big shipping container-sized
what?
parked next to solar farms to bank electricity. The remarkable part is that it runs entirely on sodium-ion batteries.
26 is too late to me to learn about cybersecurity, even though I know nothing about computers? No. Got to ask, but in Kden Live, I strictly import the custom import thing you gave me in the application after putting in the proper folder. I wonder if it's because I'm using Linux. I may be able to give you the exact settings so that you can actually tweak it.
Or
at least the settings that I had. It's basically that I made an 1152p profile. But let me screenshot all that stuff for you when I get a chance to sit down. We're going to have a lot of content that we're going to have to go over. Because I do have about close to a dozen videos that I've recorded and I have to edit. I just haven't sat down and edited them. So we'll have that, and then... we'll chat more outside the stream.
lithium at all. And CATL says it's the first sodium grid system proven out in the real world. A single unit holds more than 30 megawatt hours of energy, and it's rated for 15,000 charge cycles, which CATL pegs at around 25 to 30 years of useful service. And it still holds over 90% of its capacity at minus negative 20 degrees Celsius. China got their first...
Wait, what did they say?
...of its capacity at minus negative 20...
It holds that much capacity at negative 20?
degrees Celsius. China got their first units this September and the rest of the world next year. And a few weeks earlier, CATL signed a deal to supply 60 gigawatt hours of these sodium-ion batteries to a single company, the largest...
So it runs like butter on my computer. Nice. I still have to send you the GPU. Sorry, I haven't taken it out of the other computer.
CATL shipped
I'll probably get around to it after DEF CON. I have been so backed up. See you later, Dev.
Into car batteries.
Have a good night.
It calls Naxtra, which claims 175 watt hours per kilogram, over 10,000 charge cycles.
Holy shit!
Charge in 15 minutes, and 90% of its power down to minus 40 C. So Naxtra is the sodium-ion battery solution for their cars. Tenor is CATL's grid system, and Tenor Sodium is...
Hey, Tesla! Your batteries, they fucking sucked already. Now you're gonna have to buy this shit to be able to even reasonably compete. This is crazy.
Is the new sodium version of it. And behind all of it is the idea of a battery that works a lot like lithium in the past, but runs on sodium. Now, none of these specs are the real story, though. The real story is why the biggest battery company on Earth is pouring billions into a chemistry it could have built 30 years ago. And it comes down to one idea that has nothing to do with batteries. Take titanium. It's stronger for its weight than aluminum and barely corrodes, yet almost everything around you is made of aluminum instead. Why? Partly because aluminum is about 15 times more common in the Earth's crust, and partly because titanium is a nightmare to refine. Heat it up and it grabs oxygen right out of the air and ruins itself. Aluminum was a precious metal once too, worth more than gold until we cracked cheap electric smelting and it went from crown jewels to soda cans. I bring this up because this is the quintessential argument. If you want renewable energy, wind and solar, you have to have batteries. And if you want batteries, we have to be thinking about a supply chain and abundance on Earth that actually makes sense at that scale.
Why does Frosty Tools always pick on Just Dev? I didn't even program it to do that.
Makes rechargeable batteries possible in everything from smartphones to cars. We have seen incredible advancement in the world of batteries over the past couple of decades. And the wonder material that made it all possible is about to hit a wall. Now, we should point out that lithium isn't going anywhere. We'll continue to see lithium batteries as well. Every battery runs on this same idea, a positive and negative electrode, with the electrolyte in between that lets charged particles called ions move across but blocks electrons. Charge it up and the ions pile onto the negative side and tuck into host material, usually always graphite, sliding between its stacked carbon sheets like cards and a deck.
What was the amp hours? They haven't talked about it.
Power back out, you apply a load. The ions...
They've talked about the density.
The electron is a long way through your phone or car or whatever else you're trying to power, and that is how the battery works. Lithium is surprisingly good at this. It's the lightest metal there is, so you pack a huge amount of charge into barely any weight, which is why lithium holds around 3 times the energy of our old nickel-cadmium batteries, if you're old enough to remember those. And
yep, I remember nickel-cadmium.
Per kilogram in 1991 to about 270 today. Researching the CATL story, I fell down a rabbit hole of papers, spec sheets, and PDFs, but not everything makes it into the video. And I've always wanted an easy way to share all the rest of the research with you. So I tried Emergent, today's sponsor, and I just described what I wanted in plain English. A site to host all of our research, sort of. But there's
save yourself the minute or so.
Those ions is made of flammable solvents, so your battery is essentially a tiny tank of stuff that could potentially ignite. Ask Samsung, whose Galaxy Note 7 started catching fire in 2016 and cost them around...
Remember when this was happening?
And a lot of trust. And cold temperatures make it worse. When it's freezing, lithium plates on the anode as little metal spikes called dendrites that can short the cell out. And even when nothing...
Oh, really?
A freezing EV can lose 20 to 40% of its range. But beyond safety, there's also the question of supply chain. About 3/4 of mined lithium comes from just 3 countries, Australia, Chile, and China. And China alone refines around 65% of it and builds more than 75% of the world's batteries. So the price does what concentrated supply chains always do. Between 2020 and late 2022, lithium went up more than tenfold.
Damn.
Then crashed by more than 80%. Try planning a 10-year factory around a metal that trades more like a meme coin. And lithium was never even the scarcest thing in the battery. The painful ingredients live in the positive electrode. The high-performance lithium batteries called NMC lean on nickel, manganese, and cobalt. And cobalt is the real problem here. Around 76% of it comes from one single country, the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Oh.
That you would not want around your supply chains. So the industry got clever and built a cheaper battery called LFP, lithium iron phosphate, that drops the cobalt and nickel entirely for cheap common iron and phosphate. It gives up a little energy density, but it's cheaper, safer, and more stable. And it quietly took over. Today, it's roughly half of all EV batteries and the favorite
Salt on sea they've been drilling, yeah.
home battery packs alike. So lithium iron phosphate is the mass volume choice of chemistry, not because it's higher performance or higher energy density, but because of price and affordability with more abundant material. In fact, LFP is a major reason why batteries have gotten so affordable, but there's still a ways to go if we want true ubiquity. But what's interesting and you might not realize is that sodium started this race as the front runner. Back in the 1960s, sodium was the obvious bet. It sits right below lithium on the periodic table, so it behaves almost the same. One of the first series high-energy rechargeable batteries built by Ford back in 1966 actually ran on sodium.
I didn't know that.
It had to run at around 300 degrees Celsius. Molten. And a battery that doubles as a deep fryer is a tough sell. So the hunt was on for a battery that would work at room temperature. And that prize went to lithium. In the early 1970s, a chemist named Stanley Whittingham showed lithium ions sliding in and out of a material at room temperature. The whole industry pivoted. And by 1991, Sony had the first commercial lithium battery in a camcorder. So why did sodium get left behind?
But Vegas uses it.
Lithium ions are tiny and slip right between those carbon sheets. But sodium ions are about a third bigger, and wedging them into graphite is like sliding a hardcover book into a slot built for a magazine. Cheap, perfectly available and attainable graphite was just available, so lithium won and sodium lost. And for decades, that's what we have. That is until the year 2000. In 2000, a group at Dalhousie University in Canada tried a different host, hard carbon. It's a messy, disordered form of carbon you make by baking organic stuff like sugar or plant matter at extreme heat until the atoms freeze into a jumble full of gaps and pores. All these gaps turned out to be
Never heard of
big
this.
enough for the bigger sodium ions to fit. So sodium finally had an anode. But a lab result is one thing, a mass manufacturable battery is completely different. And that's why CATL spent nearly a decade and around $1.5 billion. Hard carbon soaks up water straight out of the air, which is the last thing you want in a battery. And CATL says it solved that plus 3 other manufacturing headaches to build these by the millions. And the reason this goes from science project to actually seriously interesting is because it'll ramp up at the scale of CATL. Its sodium cells are going to be produced on the same production lines that it already uses for lithium. So it's a close to drop-in replacement with no factory upgrades required.
Oh, wow.
So sodium was
So very little retool
the
cost.
question was which job to give it first, which brings us to the most underrated problem in all of clean energy. Here's something most people never think about. The electricity in your walls is being made right this second. Basically in real time. Natural gas you can stockpile in a pipeline or a tank and burn whenever you want. But raw electricity on the grid doesn't work that way. Generation has to match demand, millisecond by millisecond, to hold the whole system at a steady frequency of 60 cycles per second here in the US, or 50 if you live in Europe or Asia. Let that frequency slip too far and power plants trip offline to protect themselves and the lights go out. And if running a grid wasn't hard enough, we decided to add a bunch of intermittent renewable sources like wind and solar. Solar only produces when the sun's up, flooding the grid at midday and then falling off a cliff at sunset, right as everyone gets home and turns everything on. Wind comes and goes on its own schedule. So the cleaner the grid gets, the worse this mismatch will be. A glut of free energy at noon nobody needs, and a shortage when everyone's at home watching their favorite.
And that's where storage
So
comes
there's
into
one
place.
trick, though. You can catch the cheap midday energy and hold it until people want it, which means storage. Staggering amounts of it. The International Energy Agency figures the world needs total energy storage to reach around 1,500 gigawatts or 1.5 terawatts by 2030, with batteries doing the bulk of that and growing by roughly 14-fold. Storage
Dr. Brown was freaking out about 1.21 gigawatts, and here we are talking about 1,500 of them. Let that sink in. 1.21 gigawatts!
Storage passing a terawatt hour by 2030 means more than 20 times what we had in 2020.
Also a huge hazmat issue.
Humanity has ever undertaken. The part people miss is that it's easy to just cheer for solar. Lord knows I love solar, but solar is only part of the equation. To actually replace baseload power sources like natural gas, you have to be able to operate 24/7. And if you have big surges and spikes, that means you need a place to sink that extra when you don't need it. So you cannot tell the story of solar and wind as a renewable form of energy generation without also talking about batteries. It's peanut butter and jelly. And here's the beautiful part. For a giant battery sitting in a steel box in a field, almost none of lithium's advantages matter. No one's carrying it, so it doesn't really matter how much it weighs. We will continue to have really high energy density lithium solutions for things like cars.
I keep checking my Discord, but it's yours.
But for stationary
Yeah, it's my
storage,
Discord. We have people
while
chatting.
solid-state batteries get a ton of attention, and for good reason. They really offer two key benefits. Much better energy density with new options for anode and cathode, and
Let me see, yeah, I have a few chats going off.
safety. Now, sodium can already handle safety, and the density doesn't actually matter in big fields where they have plenty of space. This story might be more interesting. So then, what actually is inside a CATL sodium battery? The charge carrier is sodium, the sixth most abundant element in the planet's crust, more than 1,000 times more common than lithium, and it comes straight from salt and soda ash, about as cheap and ordinary as raw materials get. The positive electrode is a layered oxide, and CATL confirms two things about it: no cobalt and no nickel. Going by the chemistry of comparable cells, what's left is mostly sodium, iron, and manganese. Now, manganese gets unfairly lumped in with those rare materials, but it's actually the 12th most common element in the crust, dozens of times more abundant than cobalt. As we mentioned, the negative electrode is hard carbon, which means that you can dodge graphite, which is tightly controlled and largely exported by China. When you make revolutionary breakthroughs, it's really exciting. But then you start to think, how impactful will this be? Imagine a world where steel and iron weren't abundant. We wouldn't have skyscrapers and bridges and all the things that we have. We lucked out that iron, which we then figured out to make steel, was so abundant. It's the same thing here. If we want to make batteries at the kind of scale we need to have a modern, sustainable civilization, we're going to need batteries. And there are just limiting factors that always come up. So lithium iron phosphate has been the reason battery prices have dropped so low. But sodium is another level. Imagine when these batteries get to full scale, how much more affordable they'll be. But like we mentioned, sodium does have some issues as well.
Imagine how cheap my ham Radio Shack battery backup system will be.
But the performance that you give up might not be as big as you think. Naxtra claims about 170 watt hours per kilogram. Pretty close to LFP batteries of
Not
today.
bad.
Now that's nowhere near the best NMC, which is around 280 or so, or the best solid state cells that we've tested, like the ones from Prologium, which are around 360 to 400. But one really nice thing is that sodium ion has good cycle life, over 10,000 cycles, which is a charge a day for more than 27 years, and 90% of its power at minus negative 40 C, a temperature that leaves a normal lithium ion battery completely stranded.
That alone is what makes it very important for a household battery system or, you know, residential, commercial, whatever. Because now that could actually survive pretty much the entire US, Europe. Because there's very few climates that get below negative 40 C.
Now, those are CATL's own lab numbers, so we'll need more independent lab testing. But in the world of batteries, if there's a brand that you could trust numbers from, it's CATL. when we talk about these kinds of breakthroughs, it's really tempting to like pit one thing versus the other. But I've said time and time again in our videos, engineering is about a complement of options, a bunch of tools in your toolkit. Sodium is not going to replace lithium everywhere. It's a bit heavier and holds a bit less energy for its size. So for anything that you need energy density and weight, your phone, your laptop, EVs, electric planes, lithium will be the king. What sodium is coming for is LFP, the cheap, high volume, doesn't need to be the lightest possible tier of storage for things like grid storage, home batteries, and so much more. What about price? Well, here's the thing. When lithium prices crashed, well, it dragged LFP pricing down with it. So right now, sodium isn't actually that much cheaper than LFP. They're running neck and neck. But these are temporary trends. These prices are going to fluctuate like all commodities. But you can't deny that sodium will always be cheaper. It's just a raw material that is way more abundant. Whenever you put
We literally eat it. Well, not straight sodium. That's sodium chloride, but you get the point.
Lithium for batteries. These price fluctuations and wildly unpredictable markets are always going to happen. And that's another reason why sodium is going to be so important. It will bring stability to people who are trying to plan for 10 and 20 years and not have a clue what to expect. So back to where it all started. Why is the world's biggest battery company betting on the oldest, least glamorous chemistry in the room? Well, because they worked out the things that kept this technology in the lab. For 30 years, we judged batteries by one number: energy density. And
Right.
we're really good at making it bigger. But the planet's real need is a battery that we can build by the billions out of stuff we can never run out of, or almost never run out of, to soak up all that clean energy that we're about to make. And you cannot.
How interesting is it that sodium is now becoming the more important element, as abundant as it is? Because if you think about it, thorium uses molten salt reactors, right? And then we're probably going to end up pairing them with what? Sodium batteries.
Build billions of anything if 76% of it comes from just one country.
Time to invest in salt. Don't be salty that you didn't invest in salt sooner.
Years now. If you look back at our old videos, we've covered everything. I mean, we've covered batteries. We've covered all these topics in such detail. Whenever we break away from like the pure engineering and batteries and cover like a supply chain thing, it's because what I've learned doing this is it's more than just the engineering. There is the supply chain. And the supply chain is something that we're all suddenly masters and experts about since the pandemic, seemingly. But it matters. And even in my own house, I've learned that solar alone just won't cut it, because for us, the solar panel production is around 6 or 7 hours a day. But if you can make a bunch of it and store it in your batteries, you can be completely off grid. Something that we're going to.
We did the same thing, if you think about it, with my Solar Punk game yesterday.
Cover in a future video. So if you've made it this far, please consider subscribing. Only about 1/3 of you are actually subscribed, and we have a ton of amazing content planned.
All right, cool. All right, the next video. So Hans shared this. Ghost in the Shell official trailer. So if y'all don't know, there's a new Ghost in the Shell TV show that is coming out. Well, it's come out. I've already seen the first 2 episodes of it. From what it seems like, they're doing the original manga, like the, you know, that like predated the Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. I could be mistaken, but that's at least what I was picking up on. Yeah, I've been loving it. So let's see, they got the trailer here. And for those of you that don't know, I am a huge Ghost in the Shell fan. Many people don't really see it here, but the desk mat here is Ghost in the Shell with Motoko Kusanage, and then there's Motoko again inside the computer case. I loved that show since I was a kid because it was so ahead of the time. Like, think about a lot of the ethical and philosophical discussions and situations that we're coming into right now with AI, they were talking about in like mid 1990s, early 2000s. it was so far ahead of the time. And now it's amazing to see the TV show go on with showing where it came from. Like, when you hear her talk about things like, oh, I have a barrier. Well, if you realize when she's talking about barrier, she's talking about her firewall. It's like, wow, all these concepts really actually held up. That if you watch Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex today, I say it still holds up. Remember, like, when Standalone Complex came out, that was when 3D animation really started becoming a thing, and computer-aided design was really starting to take off. Like, it started with Jurassic Park, but it didn't come into, like, TV and all that until, like, later on. And they kind of just leaned into that. And knowing Ghost in the Shell is about technology, it made sense for it at the time, but now we're in this time of technology where we've experienced new technology that now I think it's appropriate for them to go back to the classic stuff. Check Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. It's like 25 years old now. Dude, if you love tech, watch that show. Like, seriously, just the first few episodes. You're gonna be like, what the fuck? Like, this is not too much of a spoiler, like, because we're talking about 25 years old. Like, it gets into what is a human, where we have a situation where a guy falls in love with an android. And it causes this whole, like, situation. So, that, you know, I remember seeing the thing already, but this is the trailer over here. So let's see. Was this it? Now, what's amazing is this came out of, like, left field for me. Because I just noticed it was on Amazon Prime. The interesting thing you have to know about Ghost in the Shell is it deals with the post-war America when there's the whole economic policy that America has adopted of perpetual warfare. This was written in the 1990s. Like, it's kind of weird when you read into it. You're like, okay, I know this is sci-fi, but why is a lot of this shit kind of making sense for today? How's the new version of Pop! OS running? I'm still not on it. I probably won't be until after DEF CON. Did Pop! OS 2604 finally get a release? Because that's what I'm waiting for. Nope, still 2404. I still can't believe Amazon Prime was, like, into this. We still haven't gotten into, like, the deeper parts of the, manga. Because, like, we just got into, like, the origins of Queen Kong. What the hell are they saying? Probably helps if I have... Why does it change it to, like... Oh. I see.
生き物には変化が必要だ。非効率になった部分は捨てなければならない。
Try Spy X Family. Oh, Spy X Family? I love that. You will laugh your ass off. It is hilarious. Yeah. So far, I've been enjoying the show. I know this came out a little bit before, but, yeah, Ghost in the Shell, definitely one of my all-time favorites. I was not... Here's the thing. I was not a fan of the Ghost in the Shell movie. I never really could bring myself to see it. And here's the thing. I love Scarlett Johansson. She's always been one of my celebrity crushes, okay? I think one of many for both men and women, but I digress. I never thought she was right for the role of Motoko. I know she kicks ass as Black Widow. There's just certain roles where you look at actors and actresses and you're like, no, this is not your role. Alright, so let's see. What do we have next? Why the USA can't use its own uranium. That might be the last video for the night.
This is what you think a nuclear disaster looks like.
No, that's not what I think a nuclear disaster looks like, but go on.
But there's another kind of nuclear disaster happening right now in the United States. The US desperately needs more power. For decades, US electricity demand barely grew. Utilities actually planned around relatively flat consumption. Then, suddenly, everything changed at once. And projections have that demand soaring. Semiconductor factories, battery plants, and industrial facilities are sprouting up across the US. Demand for electric vehicles and air conditioning is growing, and you probably heard about this.
Data centers.
Data centers.
Data centers.
A normal hyperscale AI data center
Fuck data centers. Well, no, not really. I mean, I know we need them. I'm just for common sense regulations.
already uses as much electricity as 100,000 homes. Meta's new Hyperion AI campus in Louisiana is expected to require at least 5 gigawatts of power. That's roughly the electricity demand of New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Shreveport combined. And this will affect your wallet. Residential electricity prices jumped 7.1% nationwide in 2025 and over 20% in some states. But wait, don't we already have the kind of energy source this moment demands?
It is by far the lowest cost of electricity once it is up and running.
Nuclear. The problem is we're barely using it. And it's not for the reasons you think. Yes, nuclear accidents like 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and Fukushima terrified the public. Radioactive waste raised real long-term concerns. And on top of that, reactors became painfully slow and incredibly expensive to build in the United States. This plant behind me is decommissioned, but we'll get to that later. The real bottleneck is actually this. This is uranium, and it's not quite how it looks in the movies. The US has about 1 billion pounds of the stuff in the ground right now.
Really?
Power the entire country for centuries and fill up Yankee Stadium. Red Sox fans can thank me later. But right now, we have no real way of using it. Instead, the uranium we use to power our nuclear plants comes from Canada, Kazakhstan, and Russia?
Wait, what?
The US gets this essential fuel source from the same country it and the entire Western world has sanctioned since 2022. So why is Russia, America's most powerful global adversary, one of its largest suppliers of enriched uranium and therefore electricity? And more importantly, how did the US lose the ability to refine the stuff itself? To find out, I did what we always do on Business Explains the World. I dug into the history.
That is wild.
I talked to experts.
The uranium supply chain is the single worst supply chain in all of energy.
And I uncovered a complicated and uncomfortable dynamic that might determine the future of energy in America. New York City used to get 25% of its power from nuclear, but in the past 7 years, that capacity has been almost entirely replaced by natural gas plants like this one in Queens.
Ew.
Beyond frustrating is that the US invented nuclear power, and we used to be the largest supplier of enriched uranium. To explain how we get out of this mess, I first need to show you what makes uranium and nuclear so difficult to build. And to do that, I need to show you how we got in this situation in the first place. Let's take a journey.
I need to head about an hour and a half upstate to a place I think might help tell this story.
I think you know where this started. in the 1940s, when the US detonated the first atomic bombs over Japan,
Right.
it demonstrated the immense power of uranium to the entire world. And immediately, everyone wanted a piece of it. Well, mostly America and the USSR.
In Soviet Russia,
Their first atomic weapon,
bomb fuck you.
leading both countries to scramble for as much uranium as they could get. The US bought its way to uranium supremacy. The government started advertising that it would buy any uranium anyone could find in the desert, including a $10,000 bonus. And the radiation rush was on. Stores and catalogs started selling uranium kits and Geiger counters that would go, if you got enough to uranium.
That explains why there is so much equipment.
Uranium was enriched in brand new plants in Tennessee and Kentucky. The Soviet Union, on the other hand, got their uranium by force, taking over existing mines in Eastern Europe and forcing prisoners to work in brutal conditions. They built entire secret cities dedicated to uranium enrichment, closed off from the outside world in remote locations. But it worked. Nuclear power plants started springing up all over the world, generating more and more power and more demand for uranium. Slowly, it became clear that there was a lot more uranium in the ground than initially thought, and America was the biggest player in the enrichment game.
Coming out of the Manhattan Project, we had a program that had developed an enrichment technology called gaseous diffusion. Simplest way to think about it is it's desalinization for uranium. And the way of separating the isotopes, while it worked great, it was very energy intense.
That's Lee Robinson, COO of General Matter, a company trying to bring uranium enrichment back to the United States. But we'll get to how they're planning on doing that later. The US dominated uranium enrichment for a time, but by the 1970s, German scientists and the USSR had figured out a better way to enrich uranium using what's called a zippy-type centrifuge.
So we now had a leap-ahead technology that had leapt in front of the US. So while we had the lead in overall capacity, we were the high-cost provider.
In fact, outside of a laboratory environment, no US company ever built a centrifuge-style enrichment plant.
Really?
And then the accidents started to happen. A partial meltdown at 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania and a deadly disaster at Chernobyl. Public opinion of nuclear power plummeted in the US, and mines and enrichment
Trying to install Gen 2 is horrible.
The government introduced new
How much of your life did you waste?
on building nuclear reactors, and then changed them, and then changed them again. Constant regulation shifts made new reactors catastrophically expensive to build. The first reactor in the power plant behind me cost about $160 million to build in 1970. By 1990, the cost of a reactor had shot up to $1.4 billion. The additional two on this plant cost $2.45 billion in 2007. But that's not actually what killed America's nuclear momentum.
By the grace of God, America won the Cold War.
The US had won the Cold War, but now they faced a new threat. There were tens of thousands of nuclear weapons and warehouses of uranium just sitting there in a fractured country. Everyone feared that Russia would sell its uranium to the highest bidder, and so the US made a bold move. It stepped in to be the highest bidder. Under a program called Megatons to Megawatts, uranium from dismantled Soviet weapons was shipped to the United States to fuel nuclear power plants. It was an incredible trade deal, at least for the future of humanity. It converted the equivalent of 20,000 nuclear warheads into peaceful electricity for over 20 years. But it was also the death knell for the American uranium industry. Uranium was suddenly cheap, abundant. US companies couldn't compete with the low cost of Russian leftovers.
And it effed our economy.
Facilities closed, and the industry shrank even further. Even after we'd exhausted the uranium supply from Russian missiles, the US continued to buy enriched uranium from Russia. They'd kept their uranium pipeline fully operational even as America's scaled down. And then other countries like Canada and Kazakhstan started building out their own enrichment facilities. The US had an ongoing, inexpensive supply of enriched uranium. There was no need for much domestic production.
In their heyday, there were over 700 active uranium mines in the United States. Today, there are about 7.
Damn!
Just one large-scale enrichment plant left. On top of that, natural gas started to get very cheap, and nuclear plants started to close. About 15 of them between 1990 and 2020. This plant, Indian Point, used to provide 25% of New York City's power. It shut down in 2019. In 2020, the American uranium supply looked like this. And generally, it was fine. Importing cheap nuclear fuel meant lower electricity prices and left other countries to deal with any environmental effects. And that might have been the end of the story for US uranium. Except this guy couldn't leave well enough alone.
Did you know that less than 1% of the world knows how to code? That's too bad because some of the biggest problems can be solved by coding.
Couldn't even do a smooth segue into an ad. For shame!
In 2022, Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, and all of a
Didn't
sudden,
Microsoft buy one reactor from 3 Mile Island? Maybe? I'm not entirely sure.
Not the best idea.
I heard something about them wanting to buy a reactor.
About 20% of its enriched uranium from Russia. We are nowhere near off Russian uranium. At the same time, a new AI boom has led to a massive expansion in data centers and a huge demand for new electricity. Even 3 Mile Island, once the symbol of nuclear fear, is getting ready to come back online.
Well, there's your answer. Microsoft did do that, okay.
Time in a deal with Microsoft to provide electricity for its AI processing. Indian Point behind me was bought by Holtec International, a company that builds small modular reactors. There's nothing confirmed, but there is some speculation that Holtec might use this location for a new SMR plant someday. The US is gonna need a lot more uranium. But okay, why not just buy it from somewhere else? Well, we do, but the US allies' enrichment capacity is maxed out.
There hasn't been a new plant built in 15 years.
And that's not a problem that can be solved overnight. Uranium enrichment is an exclusive club, and its members don't really want anyone else to join. The US invasion of Iran was in part to prevent them from making weapons-grade uranium. There are only 37 enrichment plants in the entire world, and about half of that capacity is in Russia.
Oy.
And that's where the real global uranium bottleneck is. See, the reason uranium can be incredibly abundant but also so rare and dangerous is that you have to do a lot of work to this before it can do this. Let's go to the lab real quick. Take that public service I performed in Yankee Stadium. All of that radioactive rock is what you might pull out of the ground. But only about 1% of uranium-laced rock is usable uranium. So this needs to be processed down to this. Most of that happens near the mining sites, primarily in Kazakhstan, Canada, Australia, and Namibia.
So you're saying I better start getting loans to buy mine now to sell for a lot later.
But it's still not pure enough for nuclear power. To understand that and why the Russians dominate it right now, we have to do a little bit of science. In this glowing cube, there are actually two variants or isotopes of uranium. Uranium-238 with 146 neutrons makes up 99% of the mass, and uranium-235 with 143 neutrons makes up less than 1%. The 235 version is the one that scientists need to do this. And then it's goodbye Yankee Stadium and the entire New York City metropolitan area. So this has to be whittled down to this. To do that, the slightly heavier uranium-238 needs to be separated from the 235. And this is incredibly difficult because the two uranium isotopes are almost identical in mass, with just the difference of a few neutrons between them.
Oh, wow.
To separate them takes incredibly precise gas centrifuges, the ones that the US never built at scale. And each time it goes through this process, the centrifuges only remove a fraction of a percent of the uranium-238. So they have to do it over and over and over again, hundreds, even thousands of times.
Oh, jeez.
A visible amount of fissile uranium. The more times it goes through the process, the more refined it becomes, until eventually you get this. Except not this, because this is what the Simpsons uranium looks like, and real uranium is just a rock. It's a fun glow, though.
So wait, where did they get the idea of, like, the uranium glow, then, if it doesn't glow?
To run a power plant, the mix needs to be anywhere from 3% to 20% uranium-235. To create nuclear weapons, it has to be closer to 90%. Those centrifuge facilities are huge and expensive and very hard to build.
Well, where did the comic books get that idea from?
Has one of those facilities.
There's one plant that's owned by a Western European operator down in Eunice, New Mexico. From what I understand, a very excellently run plant. But that's it. And they're covering maybe 20 to 25% of overall U.S. demand. So we're talking 75% of all U.S. demand is directly imported.
That facility is Urenco USA, the only large-scale commercial uranium enrichment facility in North America.
It's not even owned by an American company. The decision to chase lower costs over energy independence has come around to bite America in the proverbial. And if there's anything the pandemic or the war in Iran has taught us, it's the importance of a reliable domestic energy supply. But unfortunately, at the moment, we're kind of up creek without a Eugene Levy. The U.S. has been slowly weaning off of Russian uranium. Congress passed a bill banning new imports after 2028. But about 20% of enriched uranium in the U.S. came from Russia last year. Another 30% came from Kazakhstan, which has deep ties to China, another country with some adversarial tendencies toward America. We've been buying uranium from France and Germany, but it's much more expensive, and they're at capacity for what they can send us.
And to top it off, in 2026, with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, oil prices skyrocketed, and therefore the cost of energy.
But all might not be lost. The uranium supply chain might be tenuous for now, but companies are looking to change that. There's a huge opportunity here, and they'll do it by addressing those areas where the American supply chain is faltering.
The uranium refinement industry really has 5 nodes to it, and it looks actually just like the oil and gas industry, except at much, much smaller scale. The first node is pulling it out of the ground. It's mining. It looks like actually a very clean version of fracking. It's called in situ recovery. The U.S. industry has mines that are active right now. Up in Wyoming, there's some mines that are coming online in Texas. There's very good geology in Canada, but I'd say North America.
Oh, so we are building some new mines
in the near term. Then it goes into refinement. The next 4 nodes, you've got to take yellowcake and turn it into a gas.
So conversion, the last step before enrichment,
every time I hear yellowcake, I think of the Dave Chappelle skit.
becomes a choke point on the process.
Then it's got to go to enrichment, and you have to separate isotopes. You want a little bit more of U-235 and a little bit less of U-238 so that it can become productive inside of a nuclear reactor.
Right.
We do not have a single plant that is U.S. owned in America right now producing any scalable quantities of enrichment.
Oy.
And that deconverter sends it to fuel fabrication to press into a pellet so that it can then go into a reactor. On the deconversion and fuel fabrication step, we have capacity in the United States.
Those middle steps are what General Matter are trying to do. Through a combination of private investors...
So we have the beginning and end process, but we effectively have to ship out all of our uranium that we have mined to then be processed, to then deconvert and process it. Huh. Interesting.
Building out a new $1.5 billion enrichment plant in Paducah, Kentucky. Ironically, the home of the former largest uranium enrichment facility in the U.S.
We've been working with the DOE on building a facility that will cover roughly 20 to 25% of all U.S. needs.
Wow.
By the end of this decade, and getting to full capacity shortly thereafter. The focus...
What's their stock ticker we should buy?
Needs to be on how do we build on time and on budget. And then how do we bring that total cost of the standing up of the power plants, the cost of standing up the infrastructure, to as low as possible. That's when we start to really erode the overall cost of electricity for everybody.
There is no guarantee that General Matter achieves its lofty goals. There's a storied history of American infrastructure projects being delayed and going massively over budget, especially nuclear. The Vogtle plant in Georgia, America's newest nuclear power plant, came in 7 years behind schedule and $20 billion over budget. And it's not even finished yet. If they can manage it, though, the new General Matter enrichment plant in Kentucky could just be the first step in revitalizing the American nuclear industry, provide energy independence, completely carbon-free, and potentially even lower electric bills nationwide. We're going to need a lot of energy in the next few years. America now finds...
Oh, so I just looked it up for all of you. There is no stock ticker for it. It's privately held. But I'm really curious. Eventually they're going to do an IPO. We need to track this company because they're onto something.
Itself at a crossroads. They need more energy, and they can either get it by digging deeper into fossil fuels, importing ever more expensive uranium, or they can do the forward-looking thing and secure a domestic uranium supply. Maybe not all at once, but starting at once. Chasing cheap uranium imports got us into this situation and gutted our domestic nuclear industry. And now, we're in a race against the timeline of our own sanctions and the rapidly rising cost of energy to build it back. But only time will tell if we can make it happen before the clock on uranium imports runs out.
Nice. That was a good video. I learned actually quite a bit about the nuclear situation. Like, I was like, let's just do more nuclear. Now it's like, yeah, I should have thought about it. It was the supply chain all along. That's actually a bigger concern that we have than just the plants themselves. Because, okay, we build the plants, then we have the same problem as before with the AI data centers. Okay, we have all this hardware, but now we don't have any power. No supply to power. So, yeah. Anyway. It is getting around 10 o'clock right now, which means it is about time for me to start winding down for bed. Make sure, if you haven't already, to follow me on all of my socials. The links are in the bio. And DEF CON, the world's largest hacker and cybersecurity conference, it's going to be there in about 2 weeks or so. I'll be at the call center village. So make sure you check the call center village out. We've got plenty of shitty add-ons for sale. We've got a telephone booth shitty add-on you can plug into your badge, and we've got a whole bunch of flight tags as well. You can't buy all of these. Some of these you have to win from RCTF. I get them all because I'm at the village. But yeah, these are all the flight tags we have, and they all have different extensions on there. So call center village, and then like this one says like 200 okay, and this one says 180 ringing. So they're different extension numbers. 606 not acceptable. So yeah, make sure if you haven't already. Like I said, follow me on all the socials. I will keep you all up to date with DEF CON. There may possibly be some live streams out there. No promises, no guarantee. But I will say, at least for the week that I'm at Hacker Summer Camp, there's probably not going to be a stream. Probably looking at it, I probably will be taking a break from streaming from August 2nd. So our final stream that's scheduled is July 29th. I'll probably do a stream or two before, like maybe the night before I go to DEF CON or something like that. And then I will be back on August 12th. So, just because I have other things scheduled and everything. But thank you all for joining me. Love you all. Check the links in bio for all of my socials. Stick around for the raid if you're ever on Twitch. And I will see you all later. Wednesday is the next official stream day. And next week, we will be watching content from the InfoCon Drive. So you get to see some old classics from the hacker culture. While I'm working and setting up some stuff. But love you all. Stay safe. Happy hacking. Stick around for the raid.